let the perfect. So we are good now. So okay. So quickly, uh, Vanita, how share your experience with that? How did it all start? When did you first encounter the Toastmasters, and how has your been? How did you start off with Toastmasters?
Thanks so much, Sanjeev. First of all, I'm really excited to be here at District 98. A quick shout out to distinguished Toastmaster Arvind Nair. I've grown up seeing legends like him work for Toastmasters in India. So it's a big honor to be here at District 98. So thanks so much, Hardik, Sapna, Sanjeev, Sunita, for the opportunity. My interaction at Toastmasters was actually by accident. And since I'm seeing everyone off video, you're going to be very active on chat and tell me if your story with Toastmasters was just as by accident. If it's a yes, then put yes on the chat. Just by accident, you really didn't plan it. So my story goes like this. About 7 years ago, I was working with Oracle, and Oracle's corporate club's president was asking me to come over to the Toastmaster Club meetings, not to join as a member, but I was heading engagement for all the Oracle locations, employee engagement. He just wanted me to promote Toastmasters to the building. So it's extremely straightforward. And he said, only if you come here and see Toastmasters, will you send out an email to the 3,000 odd employees asking them to join the club. So just come and humor me, come and sit down and just attend one meeting. When I went in there, I was this last bencher at the corporate club meeting. There were about 18 to 20 odd people. I was sitting in the last. The moment they say end, I was ready to like run. And somebody told me there was snacks at the end. So that was pretty much enough for me to, be a part of that meeting. What I saw at that meeting was superbly exceptional. Bunch of people not knowing each other, but there was these front benchers cheering out like so loud about this person who was stammering, not speaking properly, and yet these bunch of folks, which I later got to know they were called club officers, they were so encouraging, and they were so concerned about the growth of a random stranger just because they came in into the umbrella of Toastmasters. So that was my first meeting encounter. The second meeting onwards, nobody needed to like force me. Nobody needed to come and remind me about it. I showed up so regularly at the 4 meetings that followed that they decided, and the next term's president said, anyway, you show up at all our meetings, you become what is called a club secretary, and you can take off minutes for all the meetings. So that's my start or journey with Toastmasters.
And what has been your motivation to continue this journey further?
Okay. I did not really join Toastmasters for public speaking. I was very comfortable. I was hosting events already for my corporate. I did not have what I call a stage fear. So when I joined in Toastmasters, I just liked the vibes of that club. It gave me something to do outside of my team. And that's why I joined Toastmasters. But I think I've renewed about 13 times after that, 13 to maybe 14 times after that. And every single time I realize when it comes to the March or the September renewals, there's just this one question that I ask myself. Have I found more people to connect with through Toastmasters? And for me, somehow, the family that I found at Toastmasters is the reason why I renew. It's not a usual mainstream answer, but it's what is working for me. I learned so much from every single education session that I attend. I learned so much from every single leader that comes into district leadership. Every role has been transformational. Every single club experience or a member experience has been some way or the other learning. So as long as all of those is there, I'm probably going to be a Toastmaster, which in my opinion will be forever. But the main thing that I renew is because the family that I found in Toastmasters, and that begins at the club. Irrespective of the roles that I have or don't have with Toastmasters, my club extremely well connected, and because of which I will renew, because it makes me feel like it's my second home, both my clubs.
Great. Thanks. Thank you, Vanita, for sharing that honest answer. So, Vanita, moving forward, we have a lot of people attending today. It's a mixture of people who have been as a part of the Toastmasters fraternity for a few years, to people who have been a part of Toastmasters fraternity for many years, and people who've been a Toastmasters for a few weeks or maybe a few months. What would be your kind of advice or guidance to them? How can they make use of this platform, to the utmost extent possible?
Right. For somebody who's just been a year or less than a year in Toastmasters, my only thing that I would say is, so the membership is very easy to fill up. Like you would literally become a member within less than an hour from the time that you fill up a form. It's that easy to become a member. But the real membership is actually in attending your Toastmaster club meetings. That's my thing to every new member that has logged in here. How frequent are you, or how often do you visit your club meetings is a deal breaker. And when I say, attend your club meetings, don't just go there and attend and do be the backbencher that I was in my first meeting. Take up roles, because every single time that you take up a role changes you even without you realizing that it is. Of course, you have to keep the core values really in the top of your head. You'll have to strive for excellence, even in a timer role, an hour counter role, or the next time that you do a prepared speech. If that is there at the back of your head, every role changes you a lot. So my advice to the new members would easily just be regular to your club meetings, because that's where this all starts. For someone who's been around and been for a long time in Toastmasters, my advice to you would be to step out of Toastmasters. I remember the time that I was basking in the glory of, my club's 200th meeting, and I was the club president. And I thought, like, this is it. Like, this is everything that I could imagine. I was having such a good time just at the celebratory meeting. And my mentor came and she told me, that was distinguished Toastmaster Gauri Sheshadri. She walked into the meeting, and there was felicitation. And she said, the party has just started. There is so much for you outside the club. And I was thinking, why is she even saying that? Like, this is everything for me. I've done like 4 club officer roles by then. My club's in the peak, and we've been president distinguished. We have so many members, corporate club, and what more could we want? And then she opened my eyes to a whole world of leadership opportunities and just so much possibility, that every single year since then has been just so much growth. And so for the members who think, hey, you know what, I can predict the evaluator because I've been here so long, I know exactly how that evaluation will be for me, or this is my club, I'm sort of bored with the kind of, I can start predicting, you can start predicting the evaluations at the club. Then my advice to you is to become the face of your club. Don't leave the membership here, but go and start attending clubs outside. Go and explore what Toastmasters can represent your club, but go outside and see what more Toastmasters can be. Same thing with so many other district opportunities as well. Serving as a club mentor, a club coach, being a part of a demonstration meeting versus a regular club meeting. There is just so much opportunity with or without being a district officer that you can do. And every single role is a learning opportunity. So if you go with that mindset, then there is no stopping you at all. So that's my advice for people who have been in Toastmasters for a bit. Then step out of your club and see what Toastmasters can do for you.
Thank you, Vanita. Related to what you were just talking about, one question just came in on chat, which says that we can understand that there is when we were talking about taking up meeting roles. So there is a TMOD role, there is a TTM role, and there is like a general evaluator role, which are the main roles typically for a meeting. Okay. But how does taking up a role like that of a sergeant at arms or a timer, where you do the timing and you present a timer report and go, how does those roles, although they might not have so much of time consumption during the meeting, how does they help in someone's overall development in communications or public speaking or leadership?
Sure. Thanks so much for that, Sanjeev. I'm going to ask a question back to the audience here. I'm guessing most of us, at least, if not all, everyone's already a Toastmaster. So you kind of know what the roles are in a club meeting. Now, tell me here in this audience and type a yes or your name. If you join Toastmasters at District 98 to become the world's best timer, anybody? Anybody here who joined to become the world's best timer? Your intention of joining, Sumit? I'm going to rephrase this question just for you. You joined Toastmasters to become the world's best timer. Anybody like that? Oh, what is this? We're like 45 of us. It's a little disappointing to not see even 1%. Well,
Not ever thought of.
Let
Not
me
ever
try
thought of.
another. I'm sorry, what was that?
Not ever thought of.
Okay, not yet. All right, but hang in there. I'll ask you another question. Okay, maybe some hands will raise here. Anybody wanted to become the world's best accounter? Like there can be no accounter like me ever. That's why I joined Toastmasters. Anybody? Okay, I wasn't expecting anyone to raise your hand. And that's the beauty of Toastmasters. And yet, every meeting, we do a timer role, we do an accounter role, we do a speech evaluator role, while we know that in the real world, we are never going to play this role outside. So my question to you is, if we are doing this over and over again in Toastmasters, what exactly is the reason why these roles are? And that's the question that I want to answer. Now, for a member who has just joined, say 1 month ago, do we have any member who's just barely a member? 1 month, anybody in the audience? I want you to unmute. Okay, Gaurav, I want you to tell me if you know what the tagline of Toastmasters is. You know, there is a logo and then there is like this one small phrase that you can see. Do you know what that is, Gaurav?
Mission color या विषय तो Toastmaster mission
Come on. Anybody wants to help Gaurav? You have to closely look at the Toastmasters logo the next time, okay? All right, Sumit, what is your answer?
Where leaders are made.
Where leaders are made. Gaurav, do you remember where
Yes,
you...
ma'am.
Okay. All right. My name is Vanita. I'm not calling you sir, so don't call me ma'am.
Oh, okay, Vanita, fine.
You know how audacious is it? How bold or how arrogant we are to just so comfortably make a tagline like that and say where leaders are made, but where what we are exactly doing is just public speaking. How did that even happen? I have wondered so many times, where is this whole leadership thing coming up if all we are doing is just speaking about it? And then pathways change so many things for us. Our projects are no longer speaking projects. Our pathways projects are doing projects. You do something, you organize something, and then you come and talk about it. You can moderate a panel, and then you come and talk about your experience. You do things, and then you come and talk about it, which is exactly what leadership is all about. Now, I want to ask a question to the entire audience. I've still not given you the answer, so bear with me while I'm building the answer for you. I want to ask you, when you talk about leadership, it's so vast. What's that one skill you think, no matter who you are as a leader, which part of the world you are as a leader, this is one skill that a leader will definitely have? If you have an answer like that, put it on chat. I understand that a lot of us, okay, you think that no matter what you are, you would definitely have inspiration. As a leader, you would inspire. Okay, I'm seeing more answers here. Empathy, compassion, expression, influence, attitude, courage, empathy, coaching. All right. If you saw all of these characteristics, thank you so much for, all the rest of the comments as well. Respecting people, delegation, connecting with the audience, communication. I would actually think, you think of any leader that you follow, any leader that you want to emulate. I have like some leaders in my head. One of them is listening to me, and I have so much pressure just performing or speaking in front of distinguished Toastmaster Arvind. One common quality that you will see with all these leaders that we, bring up in our heads is their listening skills. They don't have to be great speakers at all, but almost always they will be fantastic listeners. You go to them and talk to them about something, they will bring about change, they will delegate, they will communicate, they will lead with empathy, but they will be amazing listeners. And their listening skills will be so much on point. You would need 300 words to tell your story to them, and they will get it in just one sentence. They will be so fantastic with their listening. And that's what leadership is. For me, I believe that Toastmasters develops that listening skills that we need to become this world-class leader. And those listening skills come by, a timer role. You have no idea how difficult it is to do a timer role without having those 100 tabs on your head, distracting you and making you focus on just that one speaker. It's not easy at all. And yet we do the timer role, the R counter role, a speech evaluator role, the general evaluator role, a TMOD that wants to weave the entire meeting. All of them have to be listening to a speaker, the person before them. And so your listening skills are constantly tested in anything that you do at Toastmasters. I believe that's the reason how, if you are intently listening and you listen with the intention of helping someone grow, you definitely are a leader in the making. And that's my take on these roles that look really mundane are really the building blocks of the leadership skills that we would need in a Toastmaster meeting. Did I sort of give you an idea about that answer, Sanjeev?
Thanks, Vanita. Thanks a lot. I think, no, I mean, I've asked these questions myself to a lot of people, but I never had this chance to think about whether I wanted to be the best R counter ever or the best timer ever. So that was a different perspective that you got. So thank you very much. Uh, so let's move forward. Vanita, what do you think? We all, when we joined Toastmasters, we all had someone who you like a mentor assigned to each of us, and somebody who has always been guiding us, whether it's speeches, whether it's our pathways, progress, whether at times when we are like, nah, enough, I don't want to do it for some time, I want to take a break, somebody who always keeps pushing us, right? What in your view is the importance of a mentor in developing our journey towards becoming that better leader?
All right. I think it's so integral. And the beauty of the Toastmasters program and why it thrives for 100 plus years, I mean, we are entering into our 100th year of Toastmasters, is the little byproducts that Toastmasters gives. While public speaking is the biggest thing that we see, the communication aspect of it, but the byproducts, and one of those timeless byproducts, I would say, is mentoring itself. The beauty of that is, even when you just join in Toastmasters, some clubs have a buddy concept. It would just have like one person assigned to you just to help you navigate through the Toastmaster program, the club meetings and things like that. So it could just be from like a club buddy to somebody whom you've looked at, you've seen for a few times, and you say, you know what, I probably want to become that person in Toastmasters or outside. And then you start following them with or without them knowing they are already automatically influencers in your life. And then if you reach out to them, the answer for a mentoring request in Toastmasters is 99% yes. We always make time to mentor one other person, give them like our experiences, share something with them. And there's all kinds of mentoring, right? Like this is speech mentoring. There are mentors who show up only during the contest season because they are expert speech contest mentors. Then there are leadership mentors. There are different kinds of mentors. The one thing that I've seen is that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That is what I have seen with Toastmasters, and it's very beautiful as a concept. Now, if you have finished level 2 in your pathways, you are even introduced to the Pathways Mentoring Program, which is an excellent way, a structure to someone who says, you know what, I want to help. I want to become a mentor for someone, but I don't know how. And so that the Pathways Mentoring Program gives you a structure. It says, help somebody for like a small time project, then help them through 6 months, set goals with them, follow through the goals, have checkpoints, come back and see where where you stand, where your mentee stands at the end of the 6 months. So the whole program of the Pathways Mentoring program itself is so thoughtfully done that any lay person, just with the basics of communication that you build with 2 levels, understanding your leadership and your communication styles, you are ready already to give it back to the club that you are a part of by becoming a mentor. I would never miss an opportunity. And today I'm going to do the exact same thing as well. Finding a mentor is really the best thing that you will do for yourself. Now, I've seen a lot of times when I was, very new in Toastmasters, I would look at like a few leaders and I would decide to myself, I have to be exactly like them. And so it was easy for me to just copy them and do the things that they were doing. And yet there were some leaders who I thought, no matter what happens, I will never be like them. Those were great people to learn from as well. And we've had a fair share of all kinds of leaders. And the one thing that we have noticed is you can have as many mentors as you want. Nobody says there's just one-to-one. You could have like different mentors at different stages of your journey inside Toastmasters. And for me, the thing that has worked the best with the mentor is that my mentoring has definitely gone beyond Toastmasters. I now look at, career decisions that I would go to the mentor and I would ask her for her opinion. I would ask her about, things that are bothering me at home, just anything at all. And she has become my mentor for my life. And that's something that I got from Toastmasters. And I want all of us to just explore that. Again, no hard and fast rule that if you're stuck with one person, you have to, stay with them. It's not marriage. So you could, even in marriage, you don't have to stay with the same person if it's not working out for you. So I would recommend that. Try a mentor. If things are not working out, be a mentor. If things are not working out, look for someone else and ask for help, because unless you ask for help, the answer is always going to be no. So you'll have to take that first step in your own personal growth and reach out for help. And I think mentoring is just a very beautiful byproduct in Toastmasters that helps us become a better person just by someone else pushing us wherever we needed that little bit of an edge.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vanita. One more question that came on chat was, when we talk about pathways and when we talk about our development as a leader, or in enhancing our public speaking skills or getting on stage, it's a self-paced learning program. So if I'm not ready, I don't need to get on stage when it comes to a speech or when it comes to, but at times, how do you get that? How do you motivate yourself when I know that it's self-paced? If not this week, I'll do it next week.
All right, which is one very important thing about being in the right club. My vice president education will just ping me, whether my dad pings me or not, my VP education will ping me and say, you know what, it's about 2 months that you've given a speech. Do you think you're ready for a speech? So I need that push sometimes. And then I would remember, oh my God, I've not delivered a speech at the club. So maybe I should prepare for the next one. So that's just the motivation from outside. But I would actually wonder a lot of times, the push has to really be from ourselves. I know of a couple of members in, in my district who would actually do every single elective project. The pathway says, do 2 out of 4, and that person would do all 4. And that for me is the real learning through the Pathways program. I also know of people, even though the evaluator would give feedback and say, you satisfied all the project guidelines, they would have like their own benchmark. And they would repeat the project in another club, maybe not in the same club, but they would repeat the project until they feel that they have genuinely moved past that. And that's the beauty of a self-paced program. If you think you're ready for the next speech, then go for it. If you feel like you've done average now, but because we're so encouraging as a community, my evaluator ticked me off or signed me off, but you feel like there was more that you could do, who's stopping you from repeating your speech? The same speech, the exact same speech with the feedback that you got, who's stopping you from delivering somewhere else? There is just so many places you could do until you feel, yes, I got this. I got the purpose. I feel like I've really nailed it when it comes to writing a speech with purpose. I feel like I've really nailed it when it comes to emoting with vocal variety. Then I move into the next product. So that is something that I want you to explore. And who will be the best judge of this other than yourself? You can't expect anyone else to do that work for you except yourself. That's one way of looking at how, the motivation has to come from within. Self-paced, really, like it depends on, again, the pace of in which you give your speeches. I would recommend that you join a club appropriately. There are clubs that will not bother you at all. For you, you just be an honorary member on their roster. You don't have to show up to the meetings. There's no secretary following up with you. If you want to be left alone like that, then join a club like that. If you want to be a part of some club that pushes each other, so make your choices, make wise choices. If you can afford it, do a dual membership. If you feel that, I need like some more critical evaluations, then join an advanced club. Do different things until you feel that you are ready for the next step. Because the only person who will be the best judge of it will only be you, not anyone else.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Vanita. Since you mentioned about so many roles and, within taking up XCOM roles within the club and also at the division and the district level, which has been your toughest role so far?
I'll tell you my favorite role. At the club level, my favorite role has been the VP membership role. I think at the district level also, it has probably been the CGD role. That's where I felt like I knew the most. And for me, that was like the very essence of Toastmasters was about what does a guest see in Toastmasters and how do you convert that guest into a member and make sure that the member gets that, whatever they join Toastmasters for. So maybe VP membership was my favorite role, but the one that has been the most challenging and yet the most rewarding for me has been the vice president education. Like that literally is the glue that sticks the club together. So if there are vice president educations in the group, then just like one separate salute for you, because it's more work. You literally running the club. Yes, president and all that, but a president only steps in when the vice president education is not doing their job. So the vice president education takes the major of the load. So for me, that role was the most time consuming, the most taxing, and yet the most rewarding in my club leadership journey so far.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vanita. One question that we had was that how do we know, like if there's somebody who's been a part of Toastmasters, say for the past, say 2 years or 3 years, or somebody who's been a part of say years together, how do I know that, yes, this is making a difference for me? How do I know that how do I self-evaluate myself? Yes, what, like you spoke about, about your motivation to renew. How do I know that the motivation for me renewing is actually an investment that I'm making and it's not an expense? So how do I know that I'm improving?
I would actually ask you to start recording your speeches. You are the best mirror of that. I remember the time when I delivered my first icebreaker speech at the club was about 10 minutes long. So you can figure out it was a really long icebreaker. And after that, I think I've delivered like 4 other icebreakers for every path. And I would just see myself, there are icebreakers where I've given it like less than 5 minutes. And I know that I've truly arrived as a speaker with the way in which I've just delivered my icebreakers. That for me has been my way of looking at how my journey as a speaker has been. But it could be any speech or the same speech if you give it after a period of time. How much more confident are you, or how much more relevant to the audience you make it? How much more, are you convinced about the topic? Have you done your adequate research? Is it just a very superficial speech? These are questions that you can ask yourself. So somewhere I feel the best person to judge your growth will actually just be your video recordings. Just see. And one other great exercise that I've done is to actually ask these non-Toastmaster aunties and uncles that I've grown up with. My relatives are literally the best critics that I have about my journey, because they would say things like, earlier you used to be so short-tempered, you won't even let us complete the sentence and you will just jump and you will want to make your point. But now look at you navigating others to speak, everyone to have a viewpoint, and you're like so compassionate, you're seeming to understand us, you're putting yourself in our shoes. These are actual comments that I've received from my chitapas and my chittis and my relatives around this thing. So I see the visible change in not just in speaking, but also in the way that I deal with people. And that will come from like the closest ones around us. So that's a good place to gauge as well over a period of time.
Thank you, Vanita. Thank you very much. Yes, there's a saying, right? The closest ones are your greatest critics, and that's where the real black and white feedbacks comes across to you. Great. So, Vanita, quickly, before we just open it up for Q&A, just one question that we had was, somebody could be do you see a parallel being drawn between what we do at Toastmasters versus somebody who's progressing in their career? The question why I'm asking this is, one of the points that came up was that I could have developed my leadership skills by taking up various roles at the club level, club excom, division, area division, district level, right? But I might not be at a leadership role in my when I talk about my corporate life, I might not be at a leadership role. So although I might have developed that capability in Toastmasters, but do you see a parallel that if one can be a leader here, then one can definitely be a leader there as well?
Okay. So first of all, whatever we do in Toastmasters, I feel is absolutely useless if you cannot put it to use in the real world, which means anything that you do here should be your practice or your experimenting ground, the rehearsals, if I could call it that, to something that you will do outside. Otherwise, the Toastmaster program is not working for you. So if you join Toastmasters to become nobody joins Toastmasters to become a great Toastmaster. We all want to be great somewhere else outside of Toastmasters. And what it does for me here, and I'm hoping that, a lot of you will agree with this, is that it gives me the confidence. I use the Toastmaster Club meeting as my safe space to come and make mistakes. I don't try to succeed in my club. I come and fail. I make those mistakes. I do those experiments. I try things that I would never, ever imagine doing at work. And I'd make the mistakes here. Same thing with the leadership as well. I would take up a volunteering role. For a whole year, I will know how hard it is to deal with a few people. But I would think to myself, if I can deal with these people and still be so kind and get work done when no one's getting paid, getting work done at work, like at office or the profession, is like jujube types. It's literally just nothing at all, because first of all, someone's paying you and there is like a hierarchy or an authority that you can use. Plus, you're so nice because Toastmaster teaches you to think of the why, put the person, be empathetic and all of that. And then so getting work done has been a lot easier. So Toastmasters should never stop. The learnings at Toastmasters should never stop inside of that. Maybe you don't have an opportunity yet, but the next time an opportunity comes knocking, you will definitely be one person to put your hand up. If you are someone who's been putting your hand up every time the VP asks for a role, which is why I said it all starts with the club. The more you take up roles, the more active you are at a club level or district level, the more active you are in Toastmasters, the more active you can be outside to the organization. When I was district director, I went by, the hashtags were almost mandatory. My public relations manager was eating my head saying, you are the district director, you have to have a hashtag that means the most to you. And I would say this for every single year at Toastmasters. The more I give, the more I get from Toastmasters. And I can easily extrapolate it to my organization as well. The more hard work I do in my organization, the more I get from the organization that I work for, study at, or encounter. So just give more, get more has been like my mantra for everything that has happened at Toastmasters so far. And that's what I want to suggest to you. The more you give into Toastmasters, you're getting out of Toastmasters, but do the same thing for the organization as well. The extra efforts that you take to rehearse your lines, are you doing the same thing when it comes to a presentation at work? If you are counting your crutch words inside of a club meeting, are you doing the exact same thing when you get an opportunity to speak at a team meeting? Are you mindful of somebody else's time? Are you leading with empathy? Are you ensuring that you're putting your hand up for every opportunity that comes your way at work? These are some questions that you will have the chance to practice, experiment at Toastmasters and be better outside of Toastmasters. So that's my recommendation on how it's not a parallel. It's one thing that helps you become better in the other thing. So I hope that I answered that question, Sanjeev.
Thank you very much, Vanita. We've now opened it up for question answers. The first question that we have is, what is that one, and this interesting one, what is that one thing to avoid during your Toastmasters journey?
All right, I'm not sure. I did see a couple of the district officers here. So maybe this is a special one for you. Don't take your title too much to your head. So if you're a club officer, then that's the same thing for you as well. The one thing that I've learned in my Toastmasters thing is nobody remembers the titles. Nobody, just nobody remembers the titles at all. What they remember is how you made them feel when you had that title. And the title is very, very temporary. Except Dan Rex, of course, our CEO. Literally nobody has a permanent title. So just don't take the title to your head and see how much relationships you can build during the time that you have the title. This very favorite dialogue from Spider-Man movie, with great power comes great responsibility. So the title in Toastmasters is literally just, where you get to do more and look at it as an opportunity to get to know people, to serve better, to learn better, but don't take the title to your head.
Thank you. That's very well put, Vanita. Thank you very much. The next question that we have is, what do you do when, do you ever feel overwhelmed with Toastmasters? And if so, then what do you do when you're overwhelmed?
All right. If my husband was here, he would just literally laugh off the bed, because this has been a constant question for me, except this year. 6 years continuously in district leadership is how much has happened in my house, and it has literally taken a toll on my physical health, my mental health, my relationships. I feel like I no longer have friends from outside of Toastmasters. Okay, now I'm a complete extreme. All right, but I'll tell you what happens, and the burnout is real, is you're already juggling full-time job somewhere, you're studying, you're doing things, and then sometimes Toastmasters presents to you what I call as an infinite role. Somebody whom I know in Toastmasters taught me the difference between a finite role that you take in Toastmasters and an infinite role. For example, in a club, a treasurer role, there's only so much you can do, right? It's a finite role. There is not too much creativity. There's not too much that you can do, and the role is very limited. A finite role in Toastmasters. The VP PR role is an infinite role in Toastmasters. So the VP education role is an infinite role in Toastmasters, because there is just no stopping you for the role that you're playing. If you're a VP PR, you can keep promoting the club. You can look for like 100 PR campaigns. You can keep yourself really busy, or do the bare minimum, get out the posters, do an open house, and do bare minimum. So it's an infinite role. The one way to watch yourself without getting burnt out is to actually be okay to be imperfect. And this is very true for women in the room. And it has been so important for me to get over that fact. So I'm somebody who beats myself to perfection. On a day that I'm full-time Toastmasters somewhere, I'm a zero mom. My children don't have their hair combed. My husband probably got them some junk food, but I know they will be alive. He'll keep them alive is the one guarantee that I will know. So I'll be a zero mother on a day that I'm, a district officer somewhere traveling to some part of the country. On a day that I'm working and I have like a go live for a particular customer and I'm at this thing, zero Toastmasters on that day, but I've kept my entire team informed that I'm not in charge, but there is someone else who can help you if this cannot wait till the end of the day. And same thing with the family as well. So I've learned to be okay, to be completely present at one place and be a perfect one person one time, while it's okay to be imperfect elsewhere. That's the only way I've been able to manage the burnout. So if you're a club officer and you have an installation ceremony, everything else has to stand still. You have to make sure that milestone meeting of yours is 100% success because you signed up for it as a club officer. Same thing with the meeting. Same thing with anything that you juggle at work. When you juggle, make sure that you are kind to yourself before becoming kind to someone else. You are okay to be average somewhere else on that day when you're exceptionally putting your best foot forward in one part of your life. And because all of us, I can guarantee you, are jugglers in Toastmasters, this should help you with the burnout in case you get to face one.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vanita. One more question that we have is, how do I show my Toastmasters journey and club roles as a part of my CV?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. So a lot of times when we look into your LinkedIn profiles and you'd see volunteering experiences, you would know the kind of profile that you want to build. Are you a customer-centric person? Are you someone that is looking for like a mid-management role? So you can pick things from Toastmasters. And the good news is all recruiters always want to see what have you done outside of work. Irrespective of the level that you're joining in, they constantly are looking for what do you do outside, the regular things that you do. And so Toastmasters could be a great way to pitch not just the nonprofit that you're a part of, but also if you can align your skills that is required for the job to the skills that you've probably picked up from Toastmasters, that's a great way to make sure that it looks better on a CV, because what you are signing up for the job role is something that you've already done through your volunteering experience. So that's probably one way to look at how you can frame the things that you've done in Toastmasters to align with your job, like your everyday bread and butter.
Thank you, Vanita. I'll club two questions together. One is, what is the secret of a good speech? And the second one is, how to stop translating in the head and appear as a natural speaker like we do in Hindi?
So actually, these are two different questions. So I'm just going to take this separately. The first question that I wanted to answer was the transformation itself that you said, like that. I mean, the translation that you said in the head, and it's a very natural something. If you notice, when you're yelling at someone, you'd want to pick up your vernacular language and yell there. I'd yell better or shout at someone or hurl abuse is better in my vernacular language than in English. Is because I first process it in my local language, which is Tamil, and then I would translate that into English. And by the time I shout in English, I've lost the momentum. I'm like, just, just deal with it. So that's probably what we are doing when we speak in Hindi in our head. And we're trying to bring that out, and there is going to be like a lag. Even the best of speakers, if you start thinking in Hindi, you are going to need that time for whatever be the translation. So my cue to you is to start thinking in English. It won't be full sentences, and you should be okay with that. But that's the best way to make sure that you are becoming more confident as a speaker, especially with the vernacular. I won't call it a handicap, but just anything that you feel like you've not yet arrived as a speaker because you're constantly translating. I used to have a member in my club, and he would do that with Kannada, like the local language in the place where I live. So all the speeches would first be Kannada speeches. He would write the speech in Kannada and then literally translate it into English. And then he would come and deliver. And then I would ask him, so when you were saying this sentence, what's the first English word that comes to you? And then he would form that English word. So it's a time-taking process, but you have to be at it. And the quickest tip for that would be to start thinking in English, no matter how broken it is. And then when you start writing the speeches, the words will evolve, the synonyms will come and things like that. But you have to start thinking in English in case you want to nail that translation, difficulty that you have. The other question that you had asked me was, how do I, get better at speech writing? Is that what you had asked?
Yeah.
There is no easy mantra, because if there was a mantra that I could give you, we would all be world champions of public speaking, isn't it? But one thing that I've seen, and it's a very visible something, is exceptionally, I would be sitting in like division contests. I would not be a judge or anything, but I would just find myself constantly attending division contests because I see speakers, the way that they write their speeches, and it gives me ideas. It gives me like just some context in which I can go back. And if I have like a framework in head, there are so many education sessions that I've, just attended based on just speech writing. And yet I don't know of a single formula. So I don't think I'm an expert to come and tell you at all, like one formula that works for you. But something that really helps me is that how you convert like a small idea, a simple incident. And if you see all world champions who've made it so far, it's all the everyday things, the mundane things, a concept that everyone can relate to, something about like a loved one, a family thing, a situation where most of us would have been in. So the simplest of stories, but how can you bring depth to it? I usually go to division meets and sit and watch the division level contestants and see, oh, this could also be done. Oh, this is a great way to write this speech. And so I would pick the idea and I would go and try a format based on that. But I don't have a winning formula. I'm sorry to disappoint.
Thank you, Anita. What role does language as a tool play in Toastmasters communication?
So the very fact that we have translation over, I think 14 languages, if I'm not wrong, but we could be counting about that, is that no matter what language we speak, you still have to be a proficient speaker in that particular language. The fact that we have bilingual clubs, trilingual clubs, multilingual clubs, reiterate the fact that we don't have to be a great speaker in just English. Half the time, I remember the time when I walked into a Kannada bilingual club and I had to deliver my icebreaker in Kannada. And that is when I realized my grammar was so bad. I had no idea about the nuances of the language. And that was just me. Like I thought I was very comfortable, delivering a speech in English, but delivering a speech in a local language is a whole different ballgame. I would just think like you focus on the language that you want and work on becoming better in one particular language, and that should not matter irrespective of the language. There are so many people that I would pay to listen to, even though they speak in a local language, simply because their content is so rich. And it would just like with Google Translate and everything, it's so easy to get those subtitles and the captions available for those kind of speakers. So focus on that one language that you're comfortable with. The thing with India, and the reason why Toastmasters thrives a lot in India, is somewhere we think Toastmasters is that English speaking course. I come to Toastmasters, I can also improve my English. While we don't sign up, we don't promote that, saying it's not a substitute for an English speaking course, but because it also helps you better your language with the speeches that you deliver, and English being the most important language of communication, it helps us professionally also in a lot of areas, which is why Toastmasters and English speaking clubs inside of Toastmasters thrive a lot more. So if you're looking at an answer from a professional side, I would definitely say language is very integral, but choose your medium based on your purpose. Like if the reason why you're joining Toastmasters is to become better and get a corporate job, then obviously you want to focus on an English club, speeches in English and getting better there. But if you feel like you just want to be a proficient speaker and you're okay to do it in your vernacular, then join a respective club and focus on delivering top-notch speeches, great with content and in your local language. So that will help you. So find your purpose and then join a club accordingly for the language that is available.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vanita. We have time for just one last question. Especially if you belong to a corporate club, how much of our Toastmasters achievement is it okay to promote on LinkedIn?
Okay, I have gotten myself a lot of trouble with this. So I'm just going to be very careful when I'm going to give you like a recommendation. I've had bosses in the past. When I say bosses, like I used to report to them and they were very comfortable with the amount of work I've done in Toastmasters. And there are bosses who would come and be a part of my division. I was a division director then. So my boss came in and was a part of the division meet that I had organized. It was my biggest event as a district officer. So he came in there and he encouraged me and things like that. I've had such great bosses. And I've also had bosses who, when I block my time off on, say a Wednesday evening, my boss will find the only time in the world to set up a meeting on a Wednesday and make sure that I'm available for that call. You have all kinds of bosses. So my thing I wouldn't give you anything in general saying, this much is okay to promote on LinkedIn. You should know that LinkedIn is where everyone looks at like you professionally. So you'll have to see if it aligns to you in the work that you do. I'll give you an example. Professionally, if you are on a training side, you are somebody who needs to train other people or coach people, mentor people. Then if you write about Toastmasters and be very specific about, that you did this over the weekend or after working hours or something, don't get yourself into trouble because remember, LinkedIn is still a professional community. If you were to, identify that what you do in Toastmasters aligns to what you do or enhances what you do at work, then so be it. Otherwise, don't. For example, the training opportunity. If I feel like I want like a training, I want to get better. It's a great opportunity for me in the job that I do related to training. Then I would probably advertise all training opportunities and I would choose the weekend ones that I do just to make sure that the LinkedIn community knows about like how good a trainer or what my learnings were. Otherwise, I would skip it. So that's my recommendation to you. Do you see what you're doing in the Toastmaster thing, if it really aligns to what you're currently doing in your job or is aligning to the next job that you're having your eye on, then put it on LinkedIn. Otherwise, Instagram still works. There's still a lot of followers that you can get on Instagram, or best to keep things private.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Vanita. I think that was very, very insightful. We've almost come to the end of the session, and I was just looking at, before the session, we were just trying to collate all the things that we wanted to hear, and I'm really glad that we've taken that full hour and we've been able to complete most of the pointers. I would now like to just take this opportunity. Let me just share my screen. I would like to take this. I am sharing my screen, so hopefully my screen is visible to everybody.
Not yet.
Yes, it is now.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Vanita. I'd like to present this to you on behalf of District 98. Thank you very much for the time that you took out today to just share your experience with you. I'm sure all of us have taken a lot out of this session. And our next club meetings are going to be different from what we've picked up from here. And yeah, thank you very much, and hope we all meet sometime very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the opportunity. A special shout out to the district director who's very busy at the convention right now, and the entire team. Thank you for reaching out. I consider this as an opportunity where I got to speak to more people, Do what works for you the best. There is no one single mantra for Toastmasters. Anything in Toastmasters, be it your communication, your speeches, your leadership, or a journey that you have, started for yourself. Remember, don't take the title to your head and try and give more, get more from both Toastmasters and anywhere else. Thank you for so much for the opportunity. Arvind sir, I'm pinging you and asking you for feedback right after this.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for taking time out today and joining this session. We will be back with the next session of Wednesday Wisdoms 2 weeks from now, which is on the 30th of August at 9 p.m. And the details will be shared with everybody shortly. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And speak to you all soon.
Thank you so much, Vanita.
Thank you.
Thank you.